Coming up this week on Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, Tesla busts out a huge third quarter as they'd hoped to do. The California DMV isn't a fan of the term Autopilot. Prospective Tesla owners now have 2 fewer paint color choices and more. Welcome to Ride the Lightning. It is the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, episode 62 for October 9th, 2016. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Thanks, as always, for joining me. I start this week with a sigh of relief, personally, as my PC problems seem to have finally been rectified. Sadly, it cost me about $133 to do so. It was, in fact, a faulty secondary hard drive. I run 2 hard drives, a main system SSD drive, and then a secondary drive, and that secondary one, which didn't have much on it, but it was the one I was doing all of my Ride the Lightning podcast stuff off of, crapped out on me, and swapped finally after trying a number of things, Windows-based cures that looked like it was going to work, and then the drive ended up ultimately failing. So swapped it out, no problem. Good to have a nice, reliable computer back again. The next thing I wanted to mention, I feel like I wish I'd have mentioned this about, I guess, a week ago. I'm about a week late on this, but nevertheless, this is just a word of warning to you fellow Tesla enthusiasts. I'm not a fellow owner, but to you owners, especially now, and to you would-be owners, such as myself in the future, who are also dog people. You may hear Maggie the Boxer snoozing away on the couch next to me. So, and this is actually exclusively for California listeners here. I'll make this quick. But Governor Jerry Brown signed a bill about a week and a half ago that actually makes it legal for people to break your car window to get your dog out if it looks like if it's hot and it looks like the animal in the car is in danger. So this obviously is a bill that comes with a good heart behind it, but it's especially relevant to certainly current Tesla owners in California and also us future Tesla owners because obviously, unlike other cars, Teslas can be air-conditioned, and especially now with the 8.0 update with the dog mode that I talked about last week, Teslas can be air-conditioned for unlimited amounts of time while you're away from the car, not just that 30-minute window that the car used to give you before shutting down if you weren't in it. So if you have a dog and maybe you're out in the mall, the dog's in the car, but the dog is fine because it's 62 degrees in the car that you've air conditioned it with your app and you're keeping an eye on things with your Tesla app. I highly suggest, now I'm not taking any credit for this, there are Tesla owners who've already done this, but I wanted to pass the word along here. Make a sign, probably make 2 of them, one for each the driver's side to put up in a driver's side window and one to put up in a passenger side window. Make a sign, laminate it in bold, clear text, large text, possibly even with a photo of the climate control section of the app on it, that says something along the lines of, this car, the dog in this car is air conditioned. My Tesla smartphone app allows me to remotely cool the car for unlimited durations. Or obviously that's too wordy, but I would highly encourage California Tesla owners to make that sign immediately if you have a dog and the dog spends any time in your car at any point. And for those of you like me who will be Tesla owners at some point, file this one away in the back of your mind so that you don't get some overly eager, because it's going to happen. Again, this law seems to, I don't have a problem with it because it's anything that's going to save a dog, I'm totally fine with. But there's going to be some overeager person who takes it upon themselves to smash the window maybe a little prematurely. Now, To be fair, this bill, which is called AB 797, says a citizen must first call law enforcement to report a situation in which he or she believes an animal to be in peril. So someone can't just run around smashing car windows with dogs inside the cars willy-nilly, but nevertheless, maybe consider, if you, like I said, either make it, or if you're a future Tesla owner, just file that one away for later. Now, as to another little quick thing before I get to the Tesla news of the week, this was to be the weekend that I was going to take my wife up on her lovely, very just generous and thoughtful birthday gift of renting me a Tesla, and we were going to go for a nice drive for 4 hours. We were going to rent it for 4 hours, and unfortunately, after looking at all of the Model S's available in my immediate area here in the San Francisco area, unfortunately, the cars are all considered specialty cars, which I get, but with that comes an apparent restriction from the renting company of limiting you to 15 miles driven per hour you have the car. So that would limit us to 60 miles, which is just not nearly enough. That's you barely really get to drive it in that time. And for the money it was going to cost, I decided to pass on that and just tell my wife, keep your money, it's fine. We can figure out something else to do. Again, lovely gesture on her part, and I don't necessarily fault Get Around. I mean, I'm sure there are insurance costs and different things and what have you, but I'm lucky. I can't, because I got to spend significant time with an S on two separate occasions. Both the time I reviewed the P85 in 2013 for IGN, and then the P85D in 2015. And, when I go to Arizona, I get to drive my cousin Pat's car. So I am certainly a very fortunate Tesla fan in that I have gotten to spend a good amount of time behind the wheel of a Tesla. Mark in Vermont, though, is on the line, and he has a suggestion for me with this situation that might be helpful. So, Mark, I wanted to turn it over to you.
Hello, Ryan. This is Mark in Vermont. I was giving you a call in regards to some of the past questions in the most recent episode about renting a Tesla. I myself recently was looking at that. I live, obviously, in Vermont, and I have family in Phoenix as well. And we were looking at doing a trip in February to go out there, and there is a car-sharing website called Turo, so Turo.com, where people put their vehicles up on the website for you to rent from them directly. And there's two in Arizona, and then also we were looking in California, and obviously there's a lot more, but you can go to that website, type in where you're going or a major metropolitan area, and see if anyone is renting a Tesla. You can search by model or by make. So that's an option for people that I plan on doing anytime going to do traveling and need to rent a car. So thought I'd share it. Thanks for the podcast. It's great. Take care.
Thank you very much for that call, Mark. I looked into Turo, and they do have shops set up here in the Bay Area, as well as a number of other major cities. And their rentals are done by the full day or longer, unlike Get Around, which is by the hour. So it's looking through all the options. It's a bit more money than we can budget for this, but there was a Model X up there. In fact, a P90D Ludicrous X, a little out of my price range, as actually really were the rest of them. But as you noted, yeah, there were plenty here in the Bay Area. Even one Roadster, which was cool. The Roadster was over $800 a day, which, hey, I can understand. It's supply and demand. There are very, very few Tesla Roadsters. But you bring up something I hadn't even thought of with using a Turo or something if you're in a city that supports that Turo uses, and that's using it as a substitute for a rental car. I was just looking for a joyride, basically, a fun afternoon with my wife. But some of the Teslas were fairly reasonably priced on there, and by that I mean in the 200s, like the low 200s per day. Some of them had a 100-mile limit, others had a 200-mile per day limit, which is plenty. So I'll tell you, if I end up in LA or some market where Turo operates, it's semi-reasonable to look at renting a Tesla instead of a cheap little economy-size rental car. So thank you, Mark, for calling in with that option. And hopefully that's maybe of help to some other people in other cities who maybe Turo is in your market if you've thought about renting a Tesla. Now, let's get to the Tesla news of the week. First up is, of course, the huge delivery numbers for the third quarter. And, of course, the announcement was sent out by Tesla PR. It landed in my email box literally a few hours after last week's show was posted. But what are you going to do? So Tesla delivered, this is from Tesla's own news release, their own email. Tesla delivered approximately 24,500 vehicles in Q3, of which 15,800 were Model S and 8,700 were Model X. This was an increase of just over 70% from last quarter's deliveries of 14,402. 70%! That part's mine. In addition to Q3 deliveries, about 5,500 vehicles were in transit to customers at the end of the quarter. These will not be counted as deliveries until Q4. Man, my goodness, if those had all been delivered, which I know not feasible, right? There are always going to be cars that are in transit at the end of a quarter and can't get counted. But imagine if they had, that would have been an even 30,000 cars. Because that, of course, does include a lot of the cars that were in transit last quarter on the Q2, Q3 bridge, because Tesla even themselves notes that production rose to 25,185 vehicles in Q3, which is up 37% from Q2's production of 18,345. So as you can see, the 5,500 vehicles in transit would add up to exactly 30,000 vehicles, and they didn't produce 30,000 vehicles in Q3. So that was it's that quarter bleed over that'll always seemingly be there. But this is obviously just fantastic for Tesla. This is great news, and we'll find out if they were in fact able to achieve Elon's big goal of profitability. We're going to find that out on October 26th, which is when Tesla will announce their full Q3 results. So that is going to be on, let's see, episode 63, 64. That's going to be episode 65 coming up in 3 shows from now. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that the mix is still 2/3 S and 1/3 X, because it seemed like it was moving closer to a 50-50 split. I'm not sure it's ever going to get there the way a lot of folks, myself very much included, thought it would before the car came out. With the popularity of SUVs in America, granted I'm a Tesla fanboy, I'm very bullish on Tesla. I really thought that an SUV in America and a Tesla SUV, after the reaction to the Model S, that Tesla would sell as many X's as S's, if not more Model X's. I thought maybe the X could even outsell the S, and maybe it's going to get there someday, but with the X being a bit more expensive and of course the growing pains, to put it mildly, of the Model X, that hasn't happened. But even if it doesn't, as long as Tesla keeps selling so many Model S's, I mean, they sold and delivered, where was that figure? Sorry, it was 15,800 S's alone this quarter, third quarter, and then another 8,700 cars that were Model X's. So as long as Tesla keeps selling so many S's, the mix might not matter too much. So stay tuned. Again, 3 weeks we'll find out if they were in fact profitable, and if they did in fact, to paraphrase Elon, if I'm remembering correctly, if they could put that pie in the face of the naysayers on Wall Street. The San Francisco Chronicle reports that in draft regulations released recently, the California Department of Motor Vehicles said car companies should not use the terms self-driving, automated, or autopilot in advertising unless their cars are capable of driving themselves without human passengers paying attention. This is certainly, we know who they're targeting here. In fact, this was on that's the specific statement that pertains to Tesla is on the last page in the last paragraph of these 35 pages of regulations, because I skimmed over it looking for the Tesla part, and I found it. It is literally the last thing in there. Tesla issued a statement saying, quote, Tesla is reviewing the draft regulations and will provide input to the DMV as appropriate. Autopilot makes driving safer and less stressful, and we have always been clear that it does not make a car autonomous any more than its namesake makes an aircraft autonomous, end quote. The specific clause about this, as I said, is it's literally the last thing. It reads, quote, terms such as self-driving, automated, autopilot, or other statements made that are likely to induce a reasonably prudent person to believe a vehicle is autonomous as defined constitute an advertisement that the vehicle is autonomous for the purposes of this section and Vehicle Code Section 11713. Of course, you always have the anti-Tesla groups out to jump on any little thing, and John Simpson with Consumer Watchdog, described by the Chronicle as a non-profit group that has been critical of Tesla's autopilot deployment. This gentleman, John Simpson, says, quote, it's really a driver assist technology, and it was being advertised as autopilot. That was outrageous. You can tell the tone and inflection is mine, not necessarily Mr. Simpson's. Hey, the advertising regs are exactly what's required. So this is hilarious because, number one, Tesla does not and has not ever advertised. They don't do that. Now, I know I'm splitting hairs a little, but so are they with the term advertisement. You could say that it being on Tesla's website is advertisement. I am saying, of course, advertisement is in putting up billboards somewhere or spending dollars to market something. But number two, again, as Elon himself has clarified on many occasions and Tesla just mentioned in their own statement, autopilot means the human is right there waiting to take control. It's an assist, not a self-piloting term. So I don't want to get too tinfoil hat on you, but I have to wonder if this watchdog group that's been critical of Tesla is one of these, many little outfits funded by the Koch brothers. Again, not to get too tinfoil hat, but we've seen it. We know, that's out there, that they're spending all kinds of money in all kinds of weird little ways trying to defeat electric vehicles. So anyway, one other note from the article is that, quote, this is the Chronicle article, not the draft regulations. The Chronicle writes, quote, the draft regulations issued Friday contain some elements likely to please automakers testing autonomous vehicles in California, while other proposals address concerns raised by consumer advocates. In a break from previous drafts, the new proposal would allow companies, such as Tesla in this case, obviously, to test on public roads highly autonomous cars that don't have a human in the driver's seat. However, those cars would need to be in constant contact with a remote operator monitoring the tests, and any company performing such tests would first have to secure the permission of the city or community where those tests would take place. So I think that's great. That's why I wanted to end that news segment on a high note, because it is the state saying, yes, they're saying, hey, we don't think autopilot is fair to say, but at the same time, whether or not you agree with that, and a lot of Tesla fans probably will not agree with that criticism of the California State DMV, it is good that they are embracing this future of autonomous capable cars by saying, hey, we're totally cool with car companies testing their driverless cars here in California as long as they, go through the due diligence of getting community sign off and keeping an eye on the car. So I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think that's excellent of the California DMV to not just to turn a blind eye to this or to shun it, to say, hey, they're basically saying we want to embrace this future. Let's make sure to do it in a reasonable and safe way. So that is that one. Now, this next story, I have to admit, this was news to me in the sense that I just didn't think I guess I misunderstood how the internet browser in the Teslas was sort of powered in a sense, because Elon was asked on Twitter, when will we be getting an updated browser in the S and X? And he replied to the gentleman saying, when we upgrade the core Linux OS to 4.4, which is probably December. So I have to admit, I guess I had a bit of technical ignorance here. I didn't realize that the sluggish browser speed, if you've never been in a Tesla, it's very cool that it has a full internet browser built into the car. And that browser can technically be used while you're driving, but I don't think anyone does because it's actually pretty slow. So if you haven't been in a Tesla, the browser is not the. I mean, you pull out your phone, and that browser on your phone is going to be much quicker to use, much quicker to load pages than the Tesla's browser. You know, the cars all had 3G in the first 3 years, 3 or so, 2.5, 3 years. But they've for the last year and a half or so, all the cars, year and a half, all the cars have had LTE in them. So it's not a bandwidth issue. But I always thought it was that it was the Tegra's fault, the NVIDIA Tegra chip. That's the GPU in the car. There have been newer Tegras released since the Model S came out, but the cars all still have the same Tegra chip in them. So I always thought it was a GPU issue, that the browsers just couldn't, just wasn't processing the graphics fast enough, and that's why the Tesla car browser was always sluggish. But apparently, Elon says it's an OS issue, which is good because that means it's a software issue and not a hardware issue, and it can get fixed and retroactively better for, not retroactive, but better for every existing car, instead of if it were a GPU issue and we'd have to wait for Tesla to implement a new NVIDIA Tegra chip, which would mean that every car built before that time wouldn't benefit. Their cars would still have sluggish internet browsers. So it looks like Tesla's revving the OS. They're moving everything up to a Linux OS 4.4, and that should hopefully make the browser a good bit zippier. I will say, though, remember Elon said probably December, and it is Elon time we're talking about here. We love Elon, but timelines, not quite his strongest suit. Of all the things Elon does well, holding to deadlines, be they usually self-imposed, are not necessarily his strongest suit. So I would simply recommend that you Tesla owners out there not get your hopes up too high for December. Final news item this week, and I thought maybe the most interesting, even though it's maybe some of you don't even care if you don't like these colors, but I'm always fascinated when stuff like this happens. Solid white and metallic silver, those two paint colors are gone. They're no longer in the design studio for either the Model S or the Model X. Now, this is in fact, which makes sense because, of course, both cars they run through the same paint shop. There's one paint shop that's in the entire Tesla factory in Fremont. This is, in fact, the second death for metallic silver, which was killed off the first time a while ago, only to be brought back. But both of these are very surprising to me because I see a ton of white Model S's, and I imagine that not all of those cars are pearl white cars, because the pearl white is a $1,500 premium for that multi-coat, sparkle paint, whereas the solid white was quote unquote free. It didn't require any additional cost. Most of the colors in either Tesla, again, one paint shop, are a metallic paint that are an additional $1,000 on top of the base price of the car. Solid black and solid white were both no additional cost. So now you only have one color that won't cost you an additional $1,000 on your bill. So I thought that was a little interesting, that we're not going to have more than one quote unquote free color choice anymore. And meanwhile, the silver, also, by the way, you've heard me say it, a substantial percentage of the Model X's I've been seeing, which is more and more of them every day. And yes, I know it's anecdotal evidence in one area of the country, but it is a very dense Tesla area of the country. I've seen more white Model X's than I've seen any other color, and it's not even close. Meanwhile, the silver Model S's were a lot more common, at least around here, in the early days of the car. I'm talking from the signature days all the way, like right from the beginning. I would see lots of silver cars in the early going. I don't see nearly as many silver ones anymore, possibly because silver was, in fact, discontinued at one point before. And in fact, I don't think I've yet to see a silver Model X with my own eyes, but I have seen photos. And silver, seems to be such a popular car color in general that the fact that it's been killed off twice now by Tesla surprises me. You'd think that silver just seems to be a generally common and generally popular car color. But I will note that if you do want either of these colors and you plan to order a Tesla very, very soon, Elon has said in the past that you can order them, quote, off menu for a short time after they've been removed from the design studio. So be sure to speak with your sales advisor, your delivery specialist, as soon as you place the order for your car, if you are interested in either of those colors. All right, that'll do it for this week in Tesla news. Not a ton going on, just a handful of medium important stories. No sort of 9s or 10s out there on the megaton scale, but just a solid crop of a small handful of Tesla news stories this week. Pardon me, boy, I cannot speak here on the weekend. I will be right back with a few more excellent phone calls for you from the Ride the Lightning hotline right after this. It's that time of the show again, your time of the show, the Ride the Lightning hotline, where I take your phone calls left in voicemail form at a toll-free number I'll give you in a second, so that you can call in with questions, comments, discussion topics, reactions to things I've said or things other callers have said on previous episodes. It's our chance to have our little Tesla community discussion about everything that's going on, help each other out from time to time. That's a common theme. Is listeners helping other listeners, me trying to help you guys helping me in a lot of cases. I love it. So with the Ride the Lightning hotline, it is, of course, the time for the motto, the small print, as it were. And that's, if you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, call the Ride the Lightning hotline anytime, toll-free, at 1-888-989-8752. That's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted like I do, or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. Our first call comes from Eric in Australia, reacting to the Tesla hearse story last week, and he has a different way to look at this. So, Eric, you're on the air.
Hi, Ryan. It's Eric living from Australia. I just wanted to make a quick comment on the Tesla hearse. I totally get what you were saying, you being dead and not caring, and I'd like to introduce a different viewpoint, not from the point of view of the person who is dead, but all the others. Hearse typically travels very, very slowly when the funeral process is taking place, and all the people who are not yet dead follow that hearse with walking pace, inhaling the fumes produced by the ICE engine. And I suspect that probably a huge percentage of the hearse's lifespan is spent going at walking pace and possibly just idling. If you got a hearse with flowers on it, on summer's day, you probably have to keep the engine running to keep the air conditioning going. And from that point of view, I think that Tesla hearse makes a huge amount of sense because it is silent, produces no emissions. People can be around it with the engine running and not having to breathe the toxic fumes. And maybe even makes economic sense over the lifespan of a hearse as they travel very low kilometers and I guess will last a very, very long time before they are retired. So that's just an alternate viewpoint on that. Thanks, Ryan. Love your show. Bye.
Great points here, Eric. You know, you're wise to note that hearses often move super slow and that those cars are in service for a long, long time before being retired. So that's a lot of emissions of the worst kind, of the low miles per gallon, the sort of worst kind being pumped into the air. So, you're saying, in other words, that there's still plenty to be gained from a Tesla hearse or a zero emissions hearse from the people that are still living. I still wouldn't specifically request one as part of my own funeral wishes, at least not now. Hopefully I've got a lot of time before I'm riding in a hearse. But if my surviving family members wanted to get one for me and or themselves, I certainly wouldn't object either from this life or the next. So thanks, Eric. Let's go now to Tommy from Michigan, who, this isn't Tesla specific, but I'm hoping we can help Tommy out a little bit. He's just looking for a little advice with a project. So Tommy, what do you need?
Hi, Ryan. This is Tommy from Michigan, longtime listener. Since you've been in radio for so long, I thought I'd ask you for advice. I'm representing my high school robotics team on a local radio station and was wondering what tips you would give a first-timer. Email me at 3beard@gmail.com. That is THREEBERD@gmail.com. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Tommy, thank you very much. And I will say that, I'm flattered that you listen to me and are sort of taking notes and wanting some advice on speaking on the radio. Now, let me be clear. What I do is very much not radio. I'm not a professional. I'm a very much an amateur. Even if it seems like I'm professional, I'll take that as a compliment. But I'm just a guy with a podcast, just like everybody else on the internet. Everybody's got a podcast these days. But I've been doing this long enough where I'm very comfortable with it. So, thus, my advice would be, number one, just be yourself. Don't think about the microphone or the audience that you're broadcasting to. Number two, this is going to sound cheesy and cliche, but relax. You've got to relax. If you're all wound up tight, you're not going to speak well. You're not going to come off well. And number three, and this is something that I am working very much on to this day, is try to limit your ums and uhs. I'll bet you could go back and count plenty of them just on this episode alone. I try to stay conscious of it, but they do get out there, and that's why I'm still very much an amateur, quote-unquote, broadcaster. I don't even know if I would call myself that, but that is, limiting the ums and uhs is a great way to become a professional. So, good luck. So there's an right there, caught myself. Don't think about it, relax, be yourself, you'll be fine, and good luck representing your group on the radio there. Finally, this week in the Ride the Lightning Hotline, let me go to Joey from Chicago, who poses an extremely interesting question about autonomous cars. Joey, what do you got?
Hey, Ryan, it's Joey from Chicago, at MostADD on Twitter. First off, love the show. Been listening since episode 1. My question has to do with the eventual autonomous driving. A couple weeks ago, Tim from Kind of Funny brought up a topic about where morality lies with self-driving cars, and he talked about a site called moralmachine.mit.edu, and it had a lot of scenarios that they're having people vote on, and it was just kind of an interesting thing that I hadn't thought of when it comes to, once self-driving cars are popular, how do they decide what to do in an emergency? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and keep up the great work. Thanks.
First of all, Joey, that is a great question. You're referring to when an autonomous vehicle is in a lesser of two evils emergency situation, such as, something bad is happening in front of me and I need to react, but there's a dog walker with a pack of dogs if I swerve one way, or a group of school children if I go the other way. So, second of all, this is such a great question that I am 100% adding it to my list of questions for Elon Musk if I ever get the chance to interview him. Because he could answer this 1,000,000 times better than I could, because I, in fact, can't answer it. And granted, he could answer just about any question 1,000,000 times better than I could. Anyway, though, Elon will ultimately be the person that does in fact answer this question and makes that decision. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. Presumably, it's going to be a big discussion with Elon and Sterling Anderson, who heads up the Autopilot team, and the rest of the Autopilot team. But maybe, I thought about this some more. I wanted to have something at least thought-provoking to say in response to this. So I thought about it a little more, and I thought, well, maybe Elon, as he's working on this, as I'm sure he actually is now, perhaps Elon will consult the other members of OpenAI, which is, of course, an independent group that he's with that's working on artificial intelligence, and they are doing so. They're a group that's very much for making sure that AI, the inevitable AI that is made, is safe and doesn't basically turn into Judgment Day and launch nukes and kill us all. But yeah, I could see Elon maybe consulting with the other members of OpenAI, since that group is a group of super smart people who have to think about that stuff in a very, very similar context. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops and how that unfolds. More excellent calls this week. Everybody was awesome. If you've got a question, comment, discussion topic, give me a ring toll free. You just leave a voicemail anytime, day or night. You can call or Skype, and the number, again, is 1-888-989-8752. Be right back for you to wrap up a few things and sign off with Maggie the Snoring Boxer here in just a second. All right, before I get out of here this week, I want to mention abstractocean.com. They are a excellent sort of little side business, little Tesla accessories business that sells just, things that they're not big, major, I don't even know how to say it, just crazy conversions, or it's handy little things for the car, whether it's a silicone key fob pocket or an LED lighting kit for the interior or exterior to convert the car's non-LED bulbs to LED. And again, they reached out and they've had I came aware of them from positive word of mouth on the Tesla Motors Club forums. They reached out to me and said, hey, would like to offer your listeners a discount, a coupon code. So if you're shopping at abstractocean.com for Tesla accessories, including lanyards for those of us who aren't owners yet, you can still get something fun there. So it's abstractocean.com, and use the coupon code RTL Podcast, at checkout to get 20% off of your order. So thanks very much to the abstractocean.com folks for that. You can follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. Email me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. The referral program, still running. It's just about over. You've got 1 week left as of me recording this, so less than a week to go. I guess at this point, the only way to benefit would be if you're buying an inventory car, but plenty of people do that and have done that. So if you're going to be picking up a Tesla imminently via a showroom car, an inventory car, you can use Kevin Rapp's code, which will get Kevin some awesome prizes for being nice enough to donate his code. It'll get me a chance to win a Model X in the raffle, and it'll get you, most importantly, $1,000 off of your car. So here's the URL to use or to just give to the sales advisor at Tesla. It's the URL is ts.la/Kevin4901, or just give if you're dealing direct with Tesla, just give them Kevin4901. Subscribe to Dave T's weekly Tesla newsletter at teslaweekly.com. He delivers a nice roundup each and every Friday. The folks at teslarati.com, they are on top of things on a daily basis, posting all kinds of Tesla news. Love their redesign, by the way, that happened about a month or two ago. And the Patreon that I have launched for this show a few months ago. It's going great. I want to thank everybody for their support. If you enjoy this podcast, you get something out of it, you're listening to it on a regular basis, a lot of time, energy, and effort does go into this. So would love it if you would at least take a look at the Patreon page, maybe perhaps consider a pledge. Every little bit helps. The URL for that is patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Patreon is spelled Patreon. And I think that is everything. That is everything. Oh, just wanted to thank the Patreon producers, in fact. These are the kind folks who pledge $20 or more per month, saying thanks to Jeff Bartram, new guy, new addition to these ranks, Paul Hussey, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, ZL Klein, David Brander, Nick Hoffman, Ralph Weiss, Jonathan Wales, John Waltauer, and Scott Gillis. And, reminder on that note, actually, that the fourth Patreon-exclusive bonus episode, those are monthly extra episodes, one extra episode a month that goes up for folks that are pledging $10 or more a month. That's where all the extra awesome Ride the Lightning hotline calls go, and we have ourselves a little extra long Ride the Lightning hotline session once a month. That is for the Patreon folks. And this month's that just went up last week features calls from, so listen if you hear your name called, Paul from Texas, Tim from Dayton, Ohio, Brent from British Columbia, William from Valley Village, Lawton from Chicago, and Travis from Ohio are all on episode 4 that released last weekend. So thanks everybody so much for listening. I'm just having a blast, man. A blast. What did I try to say? I'm not sure what that, a blust? Blurst? That was like I was trying to say two things at the same time, and I don't even know what the second thing was. Again, my brain seems to be a little mixed. Maybe it's because I just woke up from a nap. I'm recording the show on Saturday afternoon, trying to get it done, as early as possible. And yeah, maybe I'm not quite fully awake again yet. Had a nice little afternoon nap. I'll tell you, the older I get, the more I like afternoon naps. I guess it's that sort of life going full circle. You nap when you're a baby, and then you don't, and then you get a little older, and naps start feeling good again. But in any case, thanks everybody so much for listening. Hopefully each and every week, whether you've been listening for one episode or for 62 episodes, I thank you so much for just giving me approximately 45 minutes to an hour of your time each and every week. I do genuinely appreciate it. Happy electric motoring, and I'll see you all again next week.